There are three signs that AI is going to make you more valuable and not less. These are not three skills that you have to go out and learn. These are signs, or these are truths that are either already true about you or they are not. So right now, every conversation on the internet sounds pretty much the same, that AI is going to replace you, AI is going to eat your job, you should do this particular AI course, or you should learn prompt engineering, otherwise you'll be left behind. And I want you to look at it a little bit differently. AI is not competing with you. AI is more of a multiplier. So think about it this way. If you multiply 0 with 10, or 0 with 100, or 0 with 1000, the answer still stays the same. The same thing happens with AI as well. A lot of tech YouTubers or AI YouTubers, they come up and say that now Opus 5 or Fable 5 is launched, or GPT 5.6 is launched, and now it is going to replace my marketing team, or it is going to eat up all the video editors and the designers. The challenge with this particular notion or this argument is that you should have something with yourself to multiply it with. If you do not come with core competencies or do not come with core attitudes, AI is going to be pretty much useless. So I spent the last few months reading this properly. I went through the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, and I was also reading through this book, 80,000 Hours by Benjamin Todd. And I was reading through some of the traits of high performers. And there were three signs or three traits that keep coming up again and again. There was a pattern amongst high performers. So let me share these three signs, and with each sign, I'm going to also ask you certain questions, and you can, while this video is playing, you can ask these questions yourself to see whether you have those signs or not. The third sign is one of the most interesting ones, so stay tuned till the end. So the first sign is communication, but I'm not going to tell you that good speakers get ahead. Everyone has heard that line, and nobody can actually do anything with it. So let's break it down properly. What is communication actually? So there is a picture in your head, and your job is to get the same picture into somebody else's head. And that's pretty much what communication is. The test for effective communication is pretty much simple. After the conversation ended, did anything happen or not? Here are three questions that you can ask yourself. So number one question is, does something come back to you, that something that you said, has that ever come back to you in a meeting? So, a lot of colleagues or a lot of people in a corporate sector, they get very upset when someone steals their idea. But I believe that this is one of the biggest compliments that you can ever get in corporate sector. Because imagine this, think about it for a second. You were communicating your idea, or if you were talking about your idea, maybe in written form or in verbal form, whatever that is, and they were so impressed with the idea that they decided to own it, and they decided to use that in a different meeting. Now, of course, we can chat about the ethics of it, but the point here I'm trying to make is that effective communication means that they were so influenced by the idea that you had, the picture that you had, that they want to communicate it or they want to own it further. Second question, when something has to be explained to a client or to a senior or to a new joinee, are you the one that gets called in? So every team has a translator. See if that's you. And the third question is, has a decision ever changed after you spoke? So there could be a budget that comes through and you said something and the plan has moved or the budget has shifted. Or maybe it doesn't even have to be a budget. Maybe you gave a feedback, a very small feedback to a colleague about a particular slide deck, and they changed their slide deck as a result of it. So most people just blabber. Most people think that communication is about using fancy words, fancy vocabulary, but it's about convincing someone else while having some solid ground. Now, let me share an ancient idea. This is from Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher. He said that if anyone wants to persuade someone, communicate something effectively, they have to make sure that they are using these three pillars of persuasion. Number one is, do I trust this person? So you must have some sort of credibility. Number two is, am I feeling something? Is there any kind of emotion attached to what is being communicated? And the number three is that, is this actually adding up? Is there true logic behind it? Now think about the third one, the logic, or as Aristotle called it, logos. So ChatGPT or Claude can pretty much give you a good enough logic if you are kind of having a conversation, and can neatly package it up in a particular report if you would like it to. So we can say that ChatGPT or Claude has pretty much solved the logos layer or the logical layer. But when you think about it, an AI chatbot cannot replace the trust factor. It cannot generate emotions. Trust and feeling do not come with a subscription. You earn those slowly with real people over time, over multiple conversations. But people believing in you It only helps if you are saying something that is worth hearing. Which brings me to the sign number 2. So sign number 2 is that you change the problem itself, or you look at the problem from a different angle. A lot of people also call it creative problem solving. And when I say creative problem solving, a lot of people think that creative means creativity, and then creativity has something to do with arts or painting or design, but that is not true. That is just one aspect of it. Everyone else seems to be pushing against the same door. If you want to apply a job, you want a job, apply for 500 positions. If you want a client as a freelancer, send 500 DMs. But what if you walk around the back of the building where everyone is crowding in front of the front door? But what if you walk back and check whether there is a window open somewhere else in the particular building through which you can enter? What if there is a second door which is hidden and there is almost no one around that particular door through which you can enter? So people do not think creatively on how to solve a problem, but high performers tend to do that very well. So think about it for a second. We landed a man on the moon in 1969, but we put wheels on a suitcase in 1972. So do you think that going to the moon was easier than putting wheels on a suitcase? Of course not. Going to the moon was, of course, challenging. But everyone used to carry their suitcases back in the day, so everyone thought, hey, what's the problem? Everyone is supposed to be carrying their suitcases, so why add wheels to it? No one really thought about that. So here are 3 questions that you can ask yourself to assess whether you have this particular attitude or this particular trait. So number 1 is, when you get stuck, what's your first instinct? Is your first instinct, let me try harder, or is there another way in? Is there another angle? See, effort is everyone's default, but trying to look at the problem from a different angle, that is rare. Second question, what do people say about you more often? Do they say, oh, you must have worked so hard on this? Or do they say, how did you even think about it? And the third question is, have you ever solved something with low budget or no budget at all, without having any kind of permission, without having any kind of resources or a position or a title, when everyone thought around you that you need all of these things to solve a particular problem? So let me share a recent example that I came across. So I came across a LinkedIn profile of Zubia Hassan. She is a designer on LinkedIn. I believe she's a freelancer on LinkedIn who designs LinkedIn banners for the top 1% professionals. Her challenge was, and I'm assuming that this must have been her challenge, to get a consistent pipeline of leads. And I believe this is a problem that almost every freelancer faces or goes through. Where do clients come from? And the standard answer is almost always the same. Post more content, send more DMs, do more reach out. But she changed the question itself. She must have asked that what is one piece of work that she can do that makes clients come to her. So she sent a connection request to the co-founder of LinkedIn, that is Reid Hoffman. And she publicly said that if Reid Hoffman accepts her connection request, she is going to redesign his banner. And interestingly, Reid Hoffman also replied saying, let's see it. So I believe after a few days, she redesigned it and she posted it publicly once again, tagging Reid Hoffman. And the post went viral. And that is how I also came across her profile. Now I can see that work has started coming to her. She is generating a lot of leads. And now a lot of people are also copying the move that she made, posting their own versions and tagging Zubia Hassan in their post. Now notice what actually happened here. She did not put more effort into chasing leads. She built one piece of proof that does the talking for her, that does the selling for her. Now connect that to AI. AI will give you a brilliant answer to any kind of brilliant question that you have, but ask it an average question and you will get a perfectly average answer in about 5 seconds. And the price of giving answers has crashed. So price of information by itself has crashed a lot, but price of asking right questions has gone up significantly. And that is what I'm also trying to do in this video if you think about it. Now let me talk about the third sign, and this one matters the most because the first 2 are pretty much useless without it. Now the third sign is high agency. But first, let me paint a picture. Let's say you are stuck in a city that you don't know about and it's 2 a.m. in the night. You don't have any money, nobody recognizes you, and there's exactly one phone call that you can make right now. And in a city where no one knows you, you don't have any money in your wallet, you don't know anyone, people are speaking a language that you do not recognize, and you have only one phone call left. Who do you think you are going to call? The person that came to your mind is the person who has high agency, or at least you think he or she has high agency. Now, see if you can flip this question. Do you think that you are on somebody else's list? So high agency is a simple thing. You see a problem and you do something about it. So the gap between noticing and doing, if the gap is very small, then that means that you have high agency. So once again, here are 3 questions that you can ask yourself. Number 1 is, have you ever started something without permission, without any title, and nobody actually telling you what to do about it or how to do about it? So that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, when somebody says that's not possible, so most people stop right there whenever people say that actually that's not possible. But does a second conversation starts, like branches out? So in ChatGPT, when we are having a conversation, we can branch into another conversation if you want to. So if someone says that that's not possible, does another branch start in your mind thinking about, okay, how do I actually make it possible? Is there another way around it? And the third question is, when do people call you? Do they call you when they need some instructions, or do they call you when they are stuck? So if people keep calling you whenever they are stuck, it doesn't mean that, oh, people are taking my advantage. Actually, there is a hidden layer or hidden sign beneath this. So if people keep calling you whenever they are stuck, and different people call you when they are stuck, when they feel stuck, it means that you can solve their problem. That means you have a trait that other people may not have, or at least they think that this is a trait that you have that other people in their connections or other people in their network do not have. Now let me tell you a story. This is year 1885, and there's this guy named Wilbur Wright. He's about 18 years of age, and he's on his way to Yale University. So one afternoon, a disturbed man smashes his face with a hockey stick, and he spends years in his bed. Now the dream of Yale University is pretty much over, and to add more gloom on top of that, his mother is slowly dying because of tuberculosis. Now around that time, New York Times had published that a man is not going to fly for another million years. And now the thing is that the Wilbur Wright, this boy, was very obsessed with birds. And laying on his bed, he kept thinking that birds fly. So flying doesn't break physics. So humans can fly. And if humans can fly, I can also fly. So now back then, he obviously didn't have any kind of Google, YouTube, ChatGPT. He did not have access to engineering textbooks. And if you think about it, there were no textbooks around aerodynamics. So he can just read these books and build his own thing where he can fly. So he wrote letters, across libraries. He sent these letters across the country. He asked for books on birds. He asked for books on physics. He asked to send him books on machines. And the locals had a nickname for him and his brother Orville Wright. They used to call him two poor nuts. However, in 1903, they flew for about 59 seconds. Now, commercial airlines operated approximately 38 million flights worldwide in 2025, carrying nearly 5 billion passengers. Now, imagine this. He had a hockey stick on his face and he sent a stack of letters. The situation was very gloomy. His mother was dying because of tuberculosis. He barely had any access to any kind of resources, yet they built the first ever plane. And about 100 years later, millions of flights are flying across, carrying billions of passengers. And now you have every book ever written in your pocket that can talk back to you using ChatGPT and Claude. But the part that really matters is that AI has unlimited capability, but it has zero initiative. So ChatGPT has never once messaged you first, unless of course you program it to do that. And every single thing that AI has ever done in this world, it started after a human being told it to do so. So having high agency and taking the initiative to do something is again one of the rare traits of being a high performer. Now, if one of these 3 signs feel weak to you, and if you want to gain more clarity, or if you want some kind of direction around how to design your career, I have built a career design code GPT. I will leave a link down in the description. You can check it out. It is completely for free. It is going to ask you some questions, and it is going to help you design your career around your answers. That's it from me, and I will see you next time.